You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and germs. Dr. J in the house. Evan, how are we doing, man? How are your holidays? How are your Thanksgiving?
Holidays were great. Let's dive in. I know we've got a short limited of time, but we're doing this on the fly because this conversation of gut health and gut infections and autoimmunity is huge. And hardly anyone is talking about this. Conventional doctors don't have a clue about the link between gut infections and autoimmunity. So, dude, let's dive right in.
That sounds phenomenal. So we talked about in the show, kind of chatting about leaky gut and autoimmunity, which is really important because leaky gut is kind of like one of the primary mechanisms of autoimmunity kind of starting, which is kind of gastrointestinal permeability. These cells in the gut called the tight junctions, they start to unzip, kind of like you unzip your coat on a hot day, and undigested food particles can get in there. And this kind of creates this cascade of reactions called molecular mimicry, where certain food proteins, the surface proteins on these foods, are similar to surface proteins of the thyroid or the brain or the pancreas, the beta cells of the pancreas, whatever. So you have this kind of immune system getting primed to similar proteins in foods, which then prime the immune reaction for the immune system to start attacking these tissues in the body. So that's kind of one of the first defenses, is this autoimmunity, leaky gut, molecular mimicry. And then while that gut's leaky, you have undigested bacterial compounds also getting in there too. And then that's going to just perpetuate and wind up that immune system, and then also make it primed for other infections to kind of slip in there, because the immune system now is weakened. Other infections can slip in, and typically we're going to have a lower stomach acid environment, so you're going to have less sterility in the stomach, because that low pH really prevents a lot of bacterial and critters from growing. But now that pH is like, it's like walking over to the dirty picnic table. Normally you spray it down with maybe some bleach, or let's say in our healthy version, maybe a really good antimicrobial essential oil. But now we don't have that because of the stress from the gut.
Yep, well said. Now, Hashimoto's, for example, is probably the most common autoimmune condition that we're going to see and deal with, and that probably you guys listening are aware of. Leaky gut has to take place for Hashimoto's to happen. That's one of the dominoes that happen. So you've got the leaky gut situation. You've possibly got the gluten in the diet. You've got the immune stress, which could be internal or external. So bad boss, bad spouse, bad relationships, bad job. Those are kind of the big dominoes we see. And when you add all those up together, that's how you get autoimmune disease. It's really just that simple.
Totally. And then we have people on the live chat here. And again, this is a great reason why you should subscribe to our YouTube channel, or Justin Health, because we have these podcasts going live as well. And we've also incorporated other technology in the background to get a higher quality audio version. So if you want better audio, you can subscribe to YouTube, but also check out our podcast, Evan Brand, Not Just Paleo, and then Beyond Wellness Radio, myself. So just keep that in the back of your head. And then your question was, I just missed it. We talked about, leaky brain. Leaky brain is connected as well, because we have these live questions coming in. So we are multitasking like it's no tomorrow. So leaky brain's important because we have these what called astrocytes, or the brain blood, or the blood brain barrier, which is kind of that interplay between systemic blood and then the passing over to the brain. And we have these cells called astrocytes. And again, same thing. When we have gut lining integrity, it tends to affect integrity of the lungs, integrity of the sinuses, integrity of, vaginal wall area, urinary tract. So you have people that have gut issues, gut integrity issues, and almost always can cause sinus issues, brain fog, brain issues, UTI issues, bladder issues, right? So you have all of that mucous membrane barrier is going to be compromised throughout the body, not just the gut, but the gut's kind of that first major domino that falls, and then everything else tends to follow along with it.
What do you think about the GABA test for the blood-brain barrier, where you take like a 500 milligram GABA, and if it works and you get relaxed, that says you have a leaky brain? Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure I buy that, because I've seen people that are really healthy and that do well with GABA, and they symptomatically they're doing pretty good if they're eating well. Again, certain supplement companies have kind of put that out where they have a GABA challenge. They say, hey, GABA is this really big amino acid compound. It shouldn't go through that blood-brain barrier. Therefore, if it does, that means your blood-brain barrier is permeable. Not sure I buy that. I think it's something to keep in mind, something to try. I have a lot of patients that have gut issues and are sick and that use GABA, or we'll even give them GABA, and they don't notice much benefit either. So, how do you sparse that? Right?
That's hard. I know. Who knows, man? That's a good question.
Everyone tries to be a little bit trendy and nuanced in this functional medicine field because they want to make a name for themselves. And I get that from a marketing perspective, but just looking at the clinical application, I'm not sure that there's a ton, but heck, if you have GABA and you want to try it and you get a benefit, that's great. I mean, I notice a little bit of improvement with GABA. Like when I take it, I feel a little bit relaxed. I mean, I also do that with ashwagandha as well. I feel it with magnesium. Someone chimed in and asked if magnesium can be taken with ashwagandha. Yeah, sure. I have no problem with that. Hope everyone listening had a great Thanksgiving too.
Yeah, Tessa wants to know, have you reversed your Hashimoto's, Dr. J, by healing the gut?
Well, so we have to be careful when we say reversed, right? So have we decreased the inflammation? Have we addressed underlying issues that made people susceptible to having an autoimmune attack? Can we lessen those and decrease them to the point where we are no longer symptomatic because we have the inflammation down or quenched enough? Yes. I'm just very careful because we have eyes in the skies and people listening, and they're looking for the cure-all word, right? So we just got to be careful. We don't cure anything. We support the body's ability to we support the underlying stressors that caused the issue to begin with, and we support the underlying systems that weren't functioning well, and then the body can start to get these symptoms under control, because the symptoms are just a manifestation of these systems not working. Symptoms occur because systems aren't working. Systems break down because of underlying stressors. As functional medicine doctors, we come in, we fix the underlying stressors, we support the systems that aren't working, and then the body starts to heal itself, right? The body's on autopilot. We just got to get the stressors and the systems get the systems working and get the stressors out of the way.
Yep, well said. So you had some gut bugs and things going on. Do you care to talk about your story for a minute with the Hashimoto's?
Yeah, I had a low level Hashimoto's kind of in the background. I had elevation to antibodies, TPO and thyroglobulin antibodies. And, I had some adrenal stress going on, and I just really worked on fixing the gut issues, which I had a handful of parasites, blasto, significant yeast overgrowth, and H. pylori, addressing those, fixing nutrient issues to help with the antibodies, fixing the digestion, fixing gut bacteria balances, of course, working on stress reduction, sleep, all those important diet and lifestyle things. And again, the antibodies for me are just still slightly elevated, but they're in a range where, functionally my thyroid is not beaten up to the point where I need any thyroid hormone. My TSH is in a pretty good place, and my T3 levels are pretty good. I actually have to go in for a test real soon. So yeah, I mean, it's possible to address the stressors and the system dysfunction to the point where you could call yourself cured. We just won't call you cured from a functional medicine perspective.
Yeah, agreed. I need to get my thyroid panel run too. You've been pushing me to do it,
should.
So I need to do it. I mean, you and I both have had these infections. I had H. pylori as well. I had crypto, giardia, and yeast, and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So that's the fun thing about Justin and I is we've both had all the things that we deal with in the clinic. So when you guys are looking to work with somebody, to me, it's a lot more honorable if you've had somebody that's been in the trenches themselves, where we had to fix us to keep going to help other people. I think that's always pretty cool. What else? I know we have limited time, but what else should we mention here about kind of this autoimmunity piece, the gut piece? We mentioned the leaky gut. We mentioned some of the triggers just in a roundabout way. So candida, bacterial infections, parasites, H. pylori, low stomach acid, gluten in the diet, dairy, possibly eggs, other food sensitivities. These could all contribute to that permeation of the gut barrier, therefore causing the situation.
100%. So let me just kind of answer some of the things that you're talking about while injecting some of the live questions we get. And that's the reason why this show is so unique compared to other shows, because we are off the cuff. This is the real deal here. So some patients are talking about having a lot of mucousy stools, right? And wanting to know where they should go for help, right? Of course, I recommend coming to see either myself or Evan. But typically, one, we want to make sure food allergens aren't driving this, right? Number two, we want to make sure we have enough digestive support on board to help those foods be broken down enough. So if there's fat, maldigestion issues, of course, adding in more bile salts or more lipolytic enzymes, right? Like lipase, things like that. Protease, proteolytic enzymes, right? These are all really important. And then, of course, once we kind of have the deck kind of dialed in, if foods are still a problem even with that, we may make them more palatable. We may go with more of a crock pot, kind of GAP specific carbohydrate kind of eating template where the foods are just easy, more processed via cooking. They aren't raw, they're peeled, they're mashed. We're decreasing salicylates and phenols and potential gut irritants so those foods can be consumed better. And then, of course, we're going to look deeper at the hormones because hormones have a major effect on inflammation and energy. And a lot of people that have gut issues, their gut's inflamed. So we have to support the inflammation of the gut lining. And then the big one is getting rid of the infections. I know that's where we're going to probably go next.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. So Scent 50 here who asked the question. Yeah, the loose mushy stools. I mean, that was me. I had cryptosporidium, I had giardia, I had H. pylori, I had bacterial overgrowth until my gut issues were addressed. Just FYI, I had IBS for 10 or 15 years of my life. And conventional doctors had no solutions for my stools. And it wasn't until I actually cleared out the infections that my bowels and my stools became normal again. And so, yeah, you've got to get yourself tested. Justin and I run several different companies, stool testing, just depending on, what we're looking at. But yeah, get a comprehensive stool test. Your conventional doctor may be able to order it through your insurance. If you tell them you want Diagnostic Solutions Lab, it's unlikely. You probably have to have a functional medicine guy like us to run it for you. But either way, once you get the diagnostic tool, you can use some herbs and fix this pretty quick.
And there's a lot of other healing nutrients. So like when we work with a patient, we kind of follow that 6R template. It's a template that I've created over the last decade or so. There's a lot of ones that are out there, 3Rs, 4Rs. In my opinion, a lot of them stink and they're the wrong order. So the 6Rs that I've created, I think Evan follows as well. In my opinion, it's the exact clinical order in which I follow things. So the first R is removing the bad foods. And again, it's not cookie cutter because that may be just getting someone from a standard American diet to a paleo template. That may be taking someone from a paleo template to an autoimmune template. Maybe someone on an autoimmune template and a paleo template, taking them to a GAPS or a specific carbohydrate diet or a low FODMAP template. I had a patient last week who's been paleo for 3 or 4 years. Chronic pain, chronic issues, chronic mood issues, chronic sleep issues. We took him from a paleo template to an autoimmune paleo template, and all of his symptoms went away in 1 week. And
that's it.
This is someone that's like already been on point for a long time, and we just pulled out a few foods. So we have that kind of progression because you'd be surprised the smallest things that we do have a huge effect. And it's like, whoa, you would have thought I would have had to have created the awesomest protocol ever and found this hidden infection that everyone missed and got rid of it for that kind of improvement to happen. But sometimes it happens with just removing some food. So first hour, remove the food. Second hour, replace enzymes, acids, digestive support. It could be bile salts too. Third R is going to be repairing the gut lining. It could be also repairing the thyroid and adrenals and sex hormones too. Fourth R is removing infections. That's where we go after bacteria, parasites, fungal overgrowth, those kind of things. We may even go after co-infections. Future podcast on that soon enough. Fifth R, repopulating or re-inoculating probiotics. some of these nice beneficial bacteria are transient. They only hang out for a month or so and pass on. So getting some of that in there periodically is helpful. 6R is a retest. We want to make sure infections are gone, and maybe even address family members too to make sure they aren't being passed back and forth. You're not playing hot potato.
Yep, well said. Riley asked a question about, he said, Evan, is your IBS completely healed now after addressing anything? Kind of a confusing question about addressing anything. Yeah, I don't have IBS anymore. I'm infection free, no more H. pylori, no more parasites, no more bacterial overgrowth, no more yeast overgrowth. And I feel good and feel completely normal, which was an amazing thing because after so long, it took me so long to get here.
Totally. And with your situation, right? Like if you started eating bad foods again and your immune system got compromised, you may have another critter or two that pops back. You may have some inflammation from the food and such, and then those symptoms would start coming back, right? So it's not like a cure, like, hey, you have scurvy, here's vitamin C, and then as long as the vitamin C is there, you're good forever, right? It's like, hey, there may be other stressors that may cause those systems to weaken again, and those IBS symptoms start to occur, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I could go out to a restaurant and get some type of contaminated food, and all of a sudden creates a leaky gut situation. Maybe I pick up a gut bug. Maybe I was eating while stressed during a week and I didn't chew my food good, and I pick up a parasite and have to start all over again. So, yeah, definitely, you could always backtrack. You're never permanently in a good place.
Totally. And again, one thing I see out there on Facebook, and I see it marketed, and it's just, I have to I'm not going to call anyone out directly. I'm going to just call.
No, come on, do it.
I'll call out the concept, but lots of people, they're like, you got to heal leaky gut. Here's this gut healing program. And if you look at it, a lot of times, it's bone broth or just a lot of healing nutrients and a lot of probiotics, right? And maybe a little diet change. But if we go look at the 6 R's, what are they really doing? They're doing the third R, maybe a little bit of the first, maybe a little bit of the second, maybe a little bit of the fifth, right? They're kind of skipping around. They don't have a system in how it's being integrated a lot of times. And I would say 99% of the time, it ignores going after and getting the infections fixed. It totally ignores it because, these people are recommending a general program to like thousands of people at once in a huge kind of a webinar kind of style, right? Well, how do you get all that types of testing and customize everything in that format? You can't. So it's a very general kind of overview approach. And in my opinion, it's going to help some people, which I think is great and it's admirable, but it's also going to miss a lot of people. And those people that don't get help may lose faith in functional medicine or say, hey, this is not for me. So I'm just kind of calling that out because think about it, right? If the root cause of what's going on is an infection component and you're doing, let's say, the first, second, third, fifth R, right? But you're not getting rid of the infection. Well, that's like me giving you this healing aloe, right? You get a sunburn, you come back from the beach. I give you this aloe, right? The underlying cause of the sunburn is the sun. And then you go back out the next day and you get sunburned again. And I just give you more aloe. That's the equivalent of what a lot of these people are doing. We'll just have some more bone broth, have some more L-glutamine, have some more of this healing compound for your gut lining. So we got to get to the root cause. A lot of people are just being very general out there. And, the listeners of our show will get it and say, hey, I see the missing piece there. And that's why we have those 6 R's that way, because then you can look at it and you can say, hey, there's a really specific way we go about addressing things here.
Yeah, well said, man. And that's the food as medicine people, and we love the food as medicine people, but that's why, we pursued functional medicine, because the food is just the first step, right? It's just one pillar of the house. It's not going to hold the house up by itself as a single column. And also, I want to mention the order of operations. If somebody just goes straight to bone broth and probiotics and L-glutamine, that's the wrong order. And sometimes people get worse. They'll come to us and say, oh, Justin or Evan, I took XYZ probiotic because I heard it on a podcast or a blog and I felt terrible and I had a flare up of my condition. Can you explain what happened? Yes, if things are just terrible in the gut, sometimes you have to hit the reset button. You can't immediately just add in all these probiotics and expect it to work. Sometimes we have to fix the balance first and eradicate the bad guys before the good guys can come back in. So this is why the order of operations, just a second what Justin said, is so important. And this may explain why you're spinning your wheels, even though you're doing everything all the paleo gurus are saying to do.
Yeah, we just want to make sure everyone's educated. I mean, we have some people out here, they're chiming about like, hey, I really want a functional medicine doctor, but I don't have the money for it. Well, guess what? The best thing that you can do right now is be listening to our podcast, because all this information is free. And we're providing tens of thousands of dollars of free information for people. I mean, I get messages all the time. Hey, I made a couple of these changes or recommendations, and my autoimmune condition for 10 years is gone. Right? I didn't cure him. I promise. I didn't cure him. Right? The body just healed itself. Right? We got to say that as our disclaimer. But that's, what's that worth? When someone's, seeing a rheumatologist for 20 years on lots of expensive medication that's tearing up their gut and their body and creating more symptoms than they're actually helping, what's that worth? So just utilize and pick up as much of the free intel as possible, and then, allocate some savings or HSA or flex spending. So if you want to dig in deeper, that's an option, but utilize as much of the free stuff as possible, because the diet's the foundation. 50% is going to be the diet. So work on that first. Once you've maxed that out and you've seen some decent results, then you want to go in deeper. You can reach out for sure.
Yeah, and you can contact, like we said, you can contact your conventional doc and try to get some stuff run through insurance, but it's likely that they don't have accounts with these functional labs, and they likely just aren't going to do it. But if you're really lucky, you've got a really good MD, you may be able to push, and at least get the lab so you have the data. Now, what do you do with the data? Well, then maybe that's where you come to a functional medicine guy that can help in terms of creating a protocol. But getting the data should not be impossible.
Totally. And a lot of functional medicine docs that do a podcast or websites, I find that they take information, they wrap it up, and they try to make people feel so confused where they walk away from the podcast or the video being like, what the hell just happened? What do I do now? And they walk away feeling less certain. I want to make sure everyone walks away from any podcast or video I do gaining more certainty, and at least walking away with one action item that they can add into their repertoire of whether it's a lifestyle or a supplement or just a different perspective on their healing, so that they get better and they feel more confident.
Yeah, I watched a couple functional medicine videos like over the weekend, and they were like hour-long videos. I made it through 10 minutes, and I thought this is not gonna help me at all. So I just had to turn it off. So let's do it. Let's do our action steps in summary here.
So of course we have our 6 R's, right? So everyone listening, kind of our general feedback is going to be a paleo kind of autoimmune template to start. And again, depending on where you're at, that may be really a lot, like really overwhelming for you. Cutting out grains, legumes, dairy, and primarily having healthy fats, proteins, more veggies than fruit and safe starch, and having healthy fats like, if we're doing a paleo, maybe a little butter or ghee. If we're going full AIP, no nuts, no seeds, no dairy, just coconut, olive oil, maybe some avocado oil, some healthy animal fats. And that will be a good starting point for people. And then again, maybe an AIP or an SCD or autoimmune diet. Again, I'm just kind of laying out the paleo template to start, because that's probably the easiest buy-in without pre-qualifying anyone. I would say that after that, at least getting some digestive support going there. And again, the ones that we formulated, we recommend the most because we've put our stamp of approval. High quality HCl or enzymes. In my line, it's HCl Supreme or Enzyme Synergy, or I'll add in the Liver Supreme for extra bile support or digest synergy. And in Evan's line, Evan has a similar bit of products as well. So that's a good starting point there. And then seeing where you're at, I think, is the next step, because there may be infections, there may be other testing that has to go in deeper. So I think if you can get that, that's number one. And then I think if you can just make sure the hydration component and the sleep component is dialed in next, I think that's a good second step. And that gives most people a really good, path to go down. And if people are listening, they've already done that and they're like, what's next? Well, that's where I think you'd want to reach out and do a little bit more testing, because that's where I think the infection component or the hormone component or the nutrient malabsorption component from the infection could be the next vector we'd really have to put up in our site, so to speak.
Yep. I'm going to address one comment here, and then I'll bring up a question, and then we could wrap
Sounds
it up.
great.
Leslie mentioned the diet's the foundation, which kind of sucks. No more pigging out in the middle of the night. The good thing is that could be related to infections. I mean, for me, for example, when I had parasites, I would get these food cravings that just didn't make sense, and it wasn't me. It's these bugs. They're stealing your nutrients. They want food. So they're catabolizing your muscle tissue. And when you're eating, they're messing up your ability to digest, especially because I had H. pylori. My stomach acid levels were lower. I was basically hungry all the time, and I was losing weight, getting to like a scary point of weight loss. So really, the diet is not too hard once you just address your gut bugs. That whole like binging type thing on food, it really doesn't happen once your gut is healed, and once your adrenals and your thyroid are helped out and your blood sugar is more stable. It's not an issue. I mean, you could go fasted for a long time and feel stable. You shouldn't have to get hangry or go in a crisis stage. Justin, a question for you. Some doctors say T3 doesn't matter. They don't test it on thyroid labs. the person's taking T3 now, slowly increasing. Would you be lowering T4 when adding this?
Well, I would,
And also,
I would typically be
yeah.
adding in more than likely a T4, T3 glandular together. So there's going to be a combination of both. Most doctors don't care about T3 because the major pharmaceutical companies, Abbott's the big one that has the patent on Synthroid. It's a synthetic T4. It's easier to monitor. Giving a T4, the half-life's 5 days, so it's really easy. It's not like a T3, which can potentially have more side effects, and it's patentable. Right, it's a basically tetraiodothyronine with a sodium salt on it, so that's how they get the patent to it. Again, they don't monitor it because that's just not what they do. They give you the T4, they get the TSH back in range. All your thyroid symptoms could still be present: cold hands, cold feet, anxiety, mood issues, hair thinning, gut stuff, constipation. All that could still be there, but if their TSH is in range, they're happy. They check that off the list. You're gone. So that's where you got to dig in deeper. You got to look at that T4 to T3 conversion. You got to look at the autoimmunity. You got to look at the nutrients. You got to look at the adrenal conversion, the gut conversion connection, and the liver detox conversion connection too.
Yep. Should you ignore TSH? No, it's definitely worth factoring TSH in. You just don't want to use that as the end-all be-all only marker. But when you have the free T3 and the reverse T3, the TPO, the TG antibodies, kind of all the stuff we run, the TSH makes a lot more sense when you got a full picture.
Yeah, we like to keep TSH in the equation and look at, sometimes people come in with a TSH that's perfect, but their T4 to T3 conversion sucks. And then what do? Are you treating the TSH or are you treating the actual patient? So we'll try to increase thyroid hormone, see if symptoms change, and then we'll try to support HPT axis communication with specific herbs and, of course, stress modulation and getting rid of infections, because that can really mess up the HPT axis, the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid connection.
Yep, for sure. Leslie, and a couple other comments about, where to go next. Well, I mean, people may say, oh, we're biased, but the answer is get tested. Our philosophy is test, don't guess. So if you're confused, you've got symptoms that don't make sense, get tested. That's the first step. You can look at adrenals, thyroid, gut, get all the puzzle pieces laid out on the table. That way you're not just buying random supplements that you might not actually need. We've seen so many people with 20 and 30 supplements that they're taking and they still feel terrible. And we cut that down to 5 supplements because it's based on labs, and all of a sudden people get better. So, save up your money for that. Maybe you don't go buy the next newest supplement you hear about. Maybe you focus on investing into some testing first.
Exactly.
And you can check that out. Justin's site is justinhealth.com. You can look at the supplements, the labs on there. Same thing on my site, evanbrand.com, and we're happy to help. So feel free to reach out.
Totally. And then also a couple people asked about Dr. Gundry's book, The Low Lectin Protocol. I think it's The Plant Paradox. Again, my thing is, if you're just going to a paleo template, you're going to cut a lot of those lectins out. If you actually cook some of the plants, some of the starches, some of the vegetables, then you lower the lectins even more. If you still have a lot of gut issues, upgrading it to an autoimmune protocol, you decrease lectins more. If we still have issues, then we can move to a specific carbohydrate or a GAPS protocol, and we decrease lectins even more. So it just depends on where you're at. Cooking knocks a great chunk of that out, and then just going to a paleo template where we're cutting out grains, legumes, dairy, and focusing more on non-starchy veg, lower glycemic, low sugar fruits, and safe starches that aren't grain based, you're going to have a huge effect. And grains are where most of the lectins and irritants come from. So again, in my opinion, that's just people making things a little bit more complicated than they have to be.
Marketing. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's done a good job. Yeah. That book has spread.
Yeah, it's gone viral. Everyone asks me about it all the time. I can't go a one day without a patient asking me about it. So I have to follow it. I think I found it on Fast Reads on Amazon. So I got like a abridged version of it that I'm siphoning through. So yeah, nice. I found a couple of services where they do these summaries, and it's great. I mean, I get 90% of the information, and I can suck it up in a half hour, and I'm like, oh, got it. That's it.
Beautiful.
On to the next one.
Beautiful.
Well, any other questions you wanted to answer here, Evan? Anything else that?
I think that's everything. I think that's all we can chat on today. And we are going to do a podcast soon on co-infections. We're going to talk all about Lyme and Bartonella and Babesia. Justin and I mean, we've literally got the books like right here that we're diving into. We want to make sure we're the most educated and current, up to date with our information before we broadcast to you guys. So make sure you hit subscribe on Justin's YouTube channel. While you're at it, hit subscribe, and we'll be back again soon.
Totally. And one last thing, person asked here on the chat list, how do you how do you choose your functional medicine doctor? How do you trust them? He's like, I can't trust them. How do I choose them? Well, number one, I think they should have some kind of content out there, whether it's video, audio, and or a blog post where you resonate with their information, like their philosophy, their information. You should resonate. I find most patients are the biggest reason why they don't get better is because number one, compliance, and number two, they've been burnt in the past or they failed in the past, and therefore they're kind of priming their subconscious to fail again. So they don't follow through and they're off to the next one, or they're making a 180 move in their care, seeing someone else because some little thing happened. They're not following through enough. So I think making sure you choose someone based on their philosophy and the information, and making sure you resonate at an emotional level and just a logical level. Here's the plan, generally speaking, right? And then number two, making sure you give it enough time and enough follow through for it to work.
Yep, well said. I'll address this last question and then we'll roll here. Is it common to have to go through a few rounds of infection-killing protocols? Yes. It can. It took me a couple of rounds to go through some herbs to knock out things because I had multiple infections. When you're trying to kill 5 or 6 or 7 things at once, yeah, it can take multiple rounds. Why is that? Depends on the person's immune system health, their stress levels, how long they've had infections, the amount of damage that's there, how much inflammation is there, are they sleeping well, do they have a good diet? There's a million factors to answer why that could be. Hope that helps.
I think that's great.
Andreas asked a question about his father's prostate cancer. PSA levels are rising rapidly. Can we cast opinions or advice? I can't. Justin?
That's about thyroid. That's about prostate issues. Say it one more time.
Yeah, prostate cancer. This drug, enzalutamide, been recommended for father's prostate cancer. PSA levels are rising rapidly. Can you cast opinions or advice?
Well, let me just grab one. I have one formula here that's been helpful. Hold on. Yeah, I have one compound here that I've been using here. I had a couple of supplement companies reach out and I'm using it. It's the pomegranate extract and the flower pollen extract. And it's cranberry extract. So cranberry, pomegranate, and flower pollen. This is an excellent support. A lot of research behind those extracts as well. Lycopene is phenomenal. Getting adequate levels of selenium, 200 mics a day, is phenomenal. Enough zinc as well is phenomenal. Saw palmetto is great. These are excellent compounds to help. Lycopene is phenomenal as well. Again, the diet has to be in place. You want to get the lifestyle things going. And again, these things don't grow overnight. They've probably taken decades to kind of move. So coffee enemas may also be helpful to kind of really push detox in a faster, more acute kind of way. But a couple of the compounds that I mentioned are phenomenal and wouldn't hurt getting them on board in the meantime.
Yeah, and look up my podcast I did with a lady named Dr. Naisha Winters. Mm-hmm. She did a book that's called The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. She had cancer herself, and she's been holistically supporting people with cancer for about 20 years. So look up Naisha Winters and look up her book, and you could implement some strategies there.
Also, get the insulin levels under control. Make sure fasting insulin is 5 or below at least. That's important, because insulin is going to cause a lot of cells to grow. And then also making sure xenoestrogen exposures mitigated, right? Don't drink out of plastic bottles, avoid pesticides and GMOs and glyphosate and Roundup. These are chemicals that you're going to get from conventional foods. Obviously, eat organic, right? Pasture-fed meats. Again, these things, I shouldn't have to repeat them, but I can't assume that everyone knows this stuff.
They don't. Not everyone does. So yeah, keep repeating it and keep preaching. And I think that's all the questions. So we did really good.
Yeah, I heard a quote back, and it's a quote from the 1940s where Joe DiMaggio was interviewed, and they said to Joe, "We noticed that you sprint on and off the field every single time at full speed, no matter what." And he said, "Well, there may be someone coming out to see me for the first time ever that's seeing me play the way I'm playing, and I want to play at 100% every time. And there may be some people that are coming out for the first time seeing us play here, and we want to make sure that they get that information that we may assume that other people may have, right? The equivalent would be like us jogging on the field, so to speak, if we just assume that."
Yep. Well said. Well, reach out if you need help. justinhealth.com. You can schedule with Justin. evanbrand.com. If you'd like to schedule consults with us, we should have some availability in the next 3 to 6 weeks or so. So just take a look, and we're happy to help you as soon as we
by the
can.
way, I'm adding in the Mimosa pudica as well. So I'll be reporting back on that in the next couple of weeks. I think you were as well, Evan. So we'll chat about that. And again, I just got that in stock. That's the Para One in my store. And I think you'll have it in your store as well. So we'll put that in the show links too. So that's a cool new herb that we're working on. We have a couple other herbal compounds in the mix that we're using for different types of co-infections that we're researching in the background too.
Awesome.
Hey, Evan, great chatting with you, man. You have an awesome day. We'll chat soon.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.